We're almost there, almost to kick off, and I'm pretty excited.
You sound excited, Dave.
I am. Are you?
Very much, very much. It seems like you wait so long to get to the start of training camp, and then it's just another endless slog to get to opening day, but we're almost there.
We're almost there. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast brought to you by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We have a lot to get to today, our last podcast before the first regular season game of 2022. So we want to talk about Miles Sanders. He's back. He's healthy. And he spoke to the reporters on Thursday. We also got a chance to talk to Jeff Stoutland, which is always a joy. And we'll break down some of what he had to say about his unit, really the best unit on this team, maybe the best coach on this team as well. We'll go through all the rookies, or at least the drafted players, and kind of figure out what their roles are going to be. And then at the end, of course, we'll talk about the Lions and what this matchup has in store for everyone. But first, Miles Sanders back at practice the last couple days. Looks good, looks healthy, looks ready. What do you have to say?
Yeah, he said he's 100%. He's ready. He said the injury, he called it very delicate. And he said it's just, it wasn't bad, but he used the word delicate, meaning like he knew that if he kept practicing, it was going to get worse and he was going to have a more serious injury and it would go into the regular season. And, I think he's really sheepish even talking about it because of his injury history. He knows what people say about him and it's valid. He gets hurt a lot. All running backs get hurt. Most running backs get hurt a lot, but he gets hurt a lot. And it's something that coming into the season was a big point of emphasis was Miles has to stay healthy. And like 4 days later, he gets hurt and he's out for 3.5 weeks. So he knows. It's funny with Miles. You can tell that he wants to answer questions a certain way. And he kind of smirks and he, looks up and then he just says, you can only control what you can control. I asked him about his career so far. I mean, he's got a weird career, 3 years. He's always had a high rushing average. He's never had 1,000 yards. He's never had like a stretch of like a bunch of weeks in a row where he's been a starting productive running back. He just, he'll have a great game. Then he'll have 4 carries, maybe more under Doug than Nick, but under Nick, it's just been injuries last year and on and off the field, in and out of the lineup. A lot of games that he did play, he wasn't 100%. He didn't have many carries. So it's just really weird, really hard to define his career. And I asked him about that. And he said, I asked him if there's a lot more there. And he said, absolutely. He said, let me find it here. He said, absolutely. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. There's absolutely a lot more in the tank. But I can only control what I can control. And that's all I worry about, stacking W's in the left-hand column. I never really thought about one-loss record in the standings like as a left-hand column, but I suppose it is. He said, whatever I can control that on that play, that's my job. So, look, he knows, and obviously he's in a contract year. He knows his salary in his next contract, whether it's here or somewhere else, is going to be dependent on how many yards he gains. So, it's obviously on his mind, but the more focused he is, the better off the Eagles are. Look, I never met a running back who wasn't obsessed with his stats. I mean, I've told the shady story about how he would do his press conference and say, I don't care about my numbers. Like he'd have like 188 yards. Like, I don't care about my numbers, so I'm just glad we got the win. Then at his locker, he'd be like, Rube, what was my average? Miles is the same way, except he just doesn't, ask what his average was at his locker after the game. But running backs, receivers, quarterbacks are measured, tight ends are measured by their numbers, and it's on his mind. But he said mentally it was hard to stay in tune and not be at practice, but he was in all the meetings, he asked questions, and all that stuff. He said, I'm in my 4th year. I know the offense. I'm very in touch with everything going on. Even though I was out physically, I don't think I lost a step. He said it was big coming back, limited last week. Says Sunday would be very good. So he's an important guy. We haven't really talked about him much because obviously he hasn't been practicing, but this is a guy that's had just under 3,000 scrimmage yards over the last 3 years. And he's an important guy on this team. We talk about Goddard and Devontae and AJ, but they need a healthy Miles and a productive Miles. And if they have that, this offense just becomes even more dangerous.
Yeah, I think it bothers him that he has this injury-prone label.
No question.
And I think even like he looks at last year, like, and from his perspective, he goes, I broke my hand. What do you want me to do? And that one, you go, okay. If he had just broken his hand and he missed a few games for that, you go, well, that happens. But the issue or there's a soft tissue injuries, and having one out of the gate isn't a good start.
Yeah,
it just is. I mean, the timing could have been worse. He could have missed regular season action, and I don't know how much. I think he's probably right about him getting back limited last week helped him ramp up, because as a running back, you need your conditioning to be at a certain level. But I mean, those concerns are just going to be there until they're not. And I don't even know if this year is enough to wipe them away, honestly.
Well, if he plays 17 games or 16 games and gets 13, 14 touches a game and stays healthy, I think it'll go a long way to alleviating it. He did say if this was a regular season, he thinks he could have played through it. I don't know. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he would have tried.
Yeah, and got hurt worse.
Yeah. I mean, I like that he called it delicate. All hamstring injuries are delicate, It's muscle fibers. You have to worry about injuring it worse, and we'll see. I'm bullish on his talent. We got to see it though, and he knows that. I think he gets frustrated with it like the rest of us, and
sure.
I think sometimes he kind of feels like people are against him, and I don't know this for a fact. I'm not in his head, but sometimes I get that sense from him. I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think people think he's a good player, but the big caveat is if he's on the field or not.
He was asked that, actually. He was asked something along those lines today. Do you feel like you're not appreciated outside this building? And he said, no, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I just try to control what I can control. I shortchanged him. He's got 3,300 net scrimmage yards in his career in 40 games. That's pretty good. So if those 12-game seasons turn into 15, 16-game seasons, then he's going to the Pro Bowl. He's talented enough to be a Pro Bowl running back.
Yeah, and he was not a Pro Bowler. I always have people argue he won some Madden contest.
No, he's not a Pro Bowler.
He didn't. He was not on the Pro Bowl roster. That's the next step for him, and he's got to stay healthy to do it.
And I asked him about receiving because, I mean, his catches obviously have gone way down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had 509 receiving yards as a rookie. He hasn't hit 200 since. And he said, I can only control what I can control. So that's him saying, throw me the ball and I'll catch it.
Yeah, I think there have been moments in his career, even last year, where he was frustrated with his role.
There's no question. He only had one drop last year. He had 7 the year before. So drops weren't a problem last year.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I understand that. I mean, but also if you're a coach and you have this delicate running back who gets hurt a lot, are you going to give him 23 carries? I mean, Doug did a couple games his rookie year where he had big carry numbers, and he stayed healthy. It doesn't seem to get him hurt. There was a 4-game stretch. He had 17, 15, 19, and 20 carries late in the season during that 2019 season, his rookie year, and he was able to handle it, and he didn't get hurt. So it's there.
Mm-hmm. It is there. And if he ends up having a big season, the guys in front of him are going to pave the way. And it's always such a pleasure to talk to Jeff Stoutland. And we hadn't talked to him all training camp.
Dave's in mid-season form with the transitions. Honestly, that was well done.
I think it works less when you announce
if I don't interrupt.
Yeah. But talking to Stout is always fun.
It's amazing.
His passion is just, you get excited whenever he's up there talking about things because he's excited about it. And there was a bunch of good tidbits that came out from that. I thought some of the most interesting stuff was about Cam Jurgens.
Yeah.
Really impressed by how Jurgens played this summer with getting, all those first team reps when Kelsey was out. But the downside, I guess, in a way, was that he didn't get a chance to play any guard and stuff. So that was the plan. We wanted to cross train this guy, but because Kelsey missed all this time, they didn't have the ability to.
He said he did throw him in at guard at some walkthroughs.
Yeah.
and Stout's fine. He's like, you guys weren't in there. You guys can't come in the walkthroughs. But he had the ability to just at least get them. But I mean, I think I wrote this in one of my 10 obs in August. He's probably their best backup guard, even though I've never seen him play.
It's tough to tell.
Never seen him play guard. Just watching him play center with the ones, and just seeing how quickly he looked like a starting caliber player with his athleticism, his power. Maybe it's not true, but boy, I'll tell you what, I'd be fine with him playing guard. And he's certainly big enough. That was kind of a question. But yeah, he and if you're playing under Stout, you got to cross train. You can't just be a center. You got to be a center guard. You got to be a guard center or a guard tackle. You have to be a tackle guard. I mean, you got to be able to do multiple things, and gives him a lot of flexibility. It was interesting what he said about Driscoll. He says he wants Driscoll to be that, that kind of guy that can play, like Sayamalo, play every position. And Driscoll doesn't play center. Isaac could play tackle, guard, or center, which is rare, really rare in the league these days. But I think ultimately they want Driscoll to be that, backup at both tackles and at both guards. He said Driscoll took reps at left tackle. I didn't see that. And again, that might have been in walkthroughs, but that's a really valuable thing. And if you can do all those things, and Stout's so funny because, I mean, he knows, like, he even talked about, like, just when you're building a roster, when, he mentioned how he's like, you got to take into account how many things can this guy do. And the more you can do, the more valuable you are. And that has a financial implication too, as far as the cap. If you got one guy who can do three things, you don't need three guys to do that thing. So, he seemed pretty high on Driscoll. I loved what he said about, I asked him about Landon. Because
Can we stop there for a second?
Sorry.
I just wanted to get back to the versatility, because he admitted that's the reason Josh Sills made the rosters, because he's played all five positions, not here, but in college he played all five, and he showed that versatility. I was kind of with Stout. I was surprised how well Sills played at tackle.
Yeah, I think he said he was shocked.
Yeah, in camp. And I was with him. I thought this guy's a guard only.
Yeah.
And then he played really well. And obviously the important part with Driscoll learning left tackle is because the Eagles do have a pretty good left tackle only backup who is now on the shelf for at least 4 weeks. So they have to figure out the contingency plan if something ever happens to Jordan Mailata. So at least that gives them some options, because their best option might be Reuben Clark, who's on the practice squad, or Coyote Iwasika, who's on the practice squad. So if Driscoll's able to get caught up and play left tackle, then they wouldn't have to ever elevate somebody theoretically.
Right. And then I can't imagine Sills would be ready to play in a regular season.
Yeah, would you throw him out there at left tackle?
I just think that's a lot. But they say,
honestly, you know what I would do, and they would never do this because they hate weakening two spots.
Yeah. And
I'm not even talking about Lane.
Oh,
Isaac.
Boy,
because your depth at guard is better.
Yeah, I mean, you can hide a guy better at guard too.
He's got quick feet. I mean, I'm talking you're getting through a game, but
yeah, we'll talk about weakening two positions. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still think they're gonna, I still think they're gonna elevate Reuben on Sunday. I'm guessing that's the plan. But after hearing Stout, maybe they feel good enough about Driscoll.
Yeah, this is all a contingency, and you hope they don't have to get to that.
Right.
But they have to be ready for it.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd feel better with Driscoll than Reuben after what I've seen from Reuben. That might be just the,
grass is greener.
Yeah, the fear of the known is worse than the fear of the unknown or something. Yeah. But what I was saying about, I asked him about Landon, and he's like, what do you see? Because it was right around now that Landon started practicing last year. I said, what's the difference? And he goes, light years. Yeah. It's just like, like, wow.
He yelled it.
He yelled it, and he said, light years different. And then he goes, how's he different, coach? He actually quoted me asking a question I was about to ask.
Yeah.
And then he went into detail just about about how far he's come and just his technique, how much his technique has improved, and we see it. I mean, he was good last year. I mean, I think he's special, and I think we're going to see that. But yeah, I just love listening to him talk about anything. I mean, he could talk about, Jack. I mean, he talk about guys who aren't here for half an hour, and I'd be spellbound.
Yeah.
He's a man. They are so lucky to have him.
They really are, and he's the longest tenured coach on staff.
One of the longest ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
one of the best ever.
One of the best ever.
Yeah.
I like what he said about Lane.
Yeah.
Scouting Lane at his old high school field when he was 3-0. He's 307, 309. It's just, yeah. Let's talk about, I mean, Lane's going into year 10, and they came in together. Lane has had one position coach in his life. He's amazing. I mean, there's a short list of, and I think I did a piece on the best Eagles assistant coaches ever.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Johnson and John Harbaugh, and there's just it's a very short list of just elite guys. Bud Carson, Sid Gilman. And I was talking to Jaws the other day about Sid Gilman, who's a Hall of Famer, who was quarterbacks coach when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl in '80.
I put Deuce up there.
I put Deuce up there too, who we'll see on Sunday. You'll see on Sunday.
That'd be great.
So, yeah, that would have been a good segue if we're talking about the Lions next. Hey, you deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Got a chance to talk to Jordan Davis on Thursday after he woke up from a slumber.
He apologized. I didn't know you guys were waiting for me.
It's funny seeing a big guy like that curled up on the floor taking a nap.
Yeah, he was taking a little nap, and then he was still lying there kind of looking at his phone and saw us all gathered around. It's weird. Literally, yesterday was our first day in the locker room in 3 years.
Yeah, we haven't talked. Let's talk. It's weird being back in there.
It is.
And honestly, the whole dynamic of it is weird. And I have people who always ask me, like, why do you need to be in the locker room? Isn't it weird that guys are getting dressed and you're there? And it is. It is. If you were to drop us into this situation and we had never done it before, you'd be like, why are we in there? But it's really the only time where there's opportunity to talk to players in a non-press conference format. There's no other way to do it.
I mean, the only other possible way would be grab them off the field, but that's not ideal.
Yeah. And typically, if it's been a long, hot practice, they just want to get the heck out of there.
Right.
And you don't get a chance to really chat with anyone.
Right. And if a guy doesn't want to talk to you, there's a lounge they can go into. They can go in the trainer's room, the weight room. There's a lot of places. Or they just say, I just don't want to talk.
Yeah. And I've talked to many players about this over the years who don't like reporters in there, but understand it because it's kind of a sacred place for players to kind of just be with their teammates. And we are alien in that world. And I get that, but
then BG and Jason Kelsey couldn't have been happier to see us.
I think for the players who haven't been around it, it's a little strange.
Yeah, I was talking to TJ Edwards, I think, just before you came over, and Patrick Johnson's next to him, and I said to TJ, it's just weird being back in the locker room again. The last time we were in there before yesterday was locker cleanout day after the Seattle playoff loss. Yeah. So that was January 5th of 2020. So I mentioned to TJ just how weird it is being back in here, and Patrick Johnson, who he's never been in an open locker room. They don't have him in college, and he said, "You're telling me." Yeah. So it's hard for those guys. I was talking to Jordan Mailata, and I said, the last time I was in the locker room, you had never played football. He had never played a game.
Yeah,
that was the end of the 2019 season. He hadn't never been on the field. So, but again, it's such a good time to go talk to a guy, put the notebook down, put the recorder down, and just talk, have a conversation. Ask a rookie, how's things going? How you feeling? Not for a story, but just to build up a relationship. For me, it's all about connecting. It's all about connections. That's one of my
core values.
Core values. I have 5 core. No, never mind. That's not funny. But yeah, I like being in there.
That's never stopped you before.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I do like being in there, and it's a whole different vibe when you just are having a conversation with one person
Mhm.
than if you're in a big giant auditorium with cameras and a press conference, and you just get better stuff, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think it shows eventually.
Yeah, and if guys don't want to talk, they have every prerogative. Somebody didn't want to talk to you yesterday, they talked to you today, and on we go.
Yeah, my feelings don't get hurt.
No, never.
I used to love Jay Ajayi turning me down for interviews because he would do it in a British accent, and it really would take some of the sting away.
Yeah, you can say anything in a British accent.
Not today, Dave.
Yeah.
Rookie roles.
Yeah.
We started there with Jordan Davis. Seems excited for his first game. He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
How much do you think he's going to play?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I asked him about if his conditioning, and he has obviously in better condition now than he was when he got here in the spring, and certainly at Georgia. I think that's going to allow him to be a little more effective, but I don't think he'll play more than – I think he'll probably play 25 snaps.
Okay. I mean, depending on
yeah, we don't know how many snaps they'll play, but they have such good depth there at that position, and I think give him 25 really good snaps, and I think it'll be in that neighborhood. What are you thinking?
Yeah, probably. I think that's reasonable. I think 25 to 30. I think he's going to make an impact from day one. I don't know if he'll be a star from day one, but you'll notice when he's out there if you're really watching that line.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm curious to see what he can do and how he affects the guys around him, and how he affects Reddick, and how teams account for him, and how much they how much attention they pay to him.
It was funny watching the preseason teams double team him.
Yeah.
They're not even game planning yet, and they're doubling him. I mean, he's going to get doubled so much. And I appreciate how selfless he is with that. I think a lot of guys will get frustrated by that naturally. But he kind of understands that if he's doubled, someone's free or one-on-one, and they'll make the most of it.
The guys that come from the SEC seem to have such an NFL type of attitude, and they know what it's all about. They know what's important. They know how to carry themselves, and he's right up there. And he's a mature kid. He's a smart kid. He's grounded. I think he gets it.
Mm-hmm. Next, Cam Jurgens, second-round pick. Ball goes well, he doesn't play, which is a weird situation.
Yeah, it is. Wonder when he will play. But if he had to play, you'd feel really good about him.
Yeah, and we'll see how quickly they can bring him along as a guard to get him to the point where he'd be a viable option if a guard goes down. I don't think right now he would be, just because he hasn't gotten the reps there. I think they would go with Driscoll or Sua first.
I think so too. But you know what? If he had to play, I'd feel I think he'd be okay.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. We'll see. One of those weird things where you're hoping you don't see him this year.
Right.
Third-round pick, Nakobe Dean. Not as much as we thought initially he was going to play, but I think they're going to find ways to get him on the field.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a lot off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might play 10 to 15 snaps.
You just hit us with a Ray Sai.
Did I?
Uh-huh.
Ray Sai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, Ray mastered the art of the meaningful sigh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 10 to 15 snaps, or maybe closer to 10.
That's fine. I think there are things he does that the other line, like specifically as a blitzer, and you obviously can't telegraph that.
Right.
But I'd like to see them use him in those roles on occasion.
I think Kaiser can blitz.
Mm-hmm.
TJ can blitz a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dean is probably their best blitzing linebacker. But again, you can't just put him out there when you want to blitz.
Yeah.
But I think like he made plays in that Jets game, and that was really encouraging. And again, I think we've both talked about this. He's the kind of guy that you put him out there when the lights are shining and the stadium is full and people are making noise and everything counts. And I think he'll hold his own.
Yeah, and he'll get special teams reps.
Yeah.
Which is a big part for a lot of rookies. I think he'll do well there. That's kind of a new thing for him, being the guy at an SEC school, but he has the athleticism to be able to do that. I'm not too worried about him picking up team snaps.
Yeah, and I think, his time will come.
The next one is Kyron Johnson, the 6th-round pick from Kansas. I finally told him today, Rube, that he is the latest in a pretty impressive line of my surviving camp subjects.
Yeah, if I'm a late round rookie or an undrafted rookie, I'm going to approach you. Like, I want you to profile me in this series because you have a pretty good track
Wouldn't that be
record.
great? That would make my life a lot easier. So I do that series every summer, and I try to. I couldn't do it during COVID years, but Jordan Mailata was the first one. TJ Edwards was the second. So I've gotten a 7th-round pick, an undrafted guy, and a 6th-round pick through to the team.
Yeah, well, I mean, 2 are pretty good starters, and 1 makes the team as a rookie 6th-round pick out of Kansas. So you're on a roll.
Yeah. What do you think we can expect from Kyron this year?
Yeah, I think I think it's going to be a year of learning and just getting adjusted. I at that position. Maybe he gets some reps. Maybe he's inactive, but I think it's kind of just going to be a year to learn the system, learn how to be a pro, and see how much he can, how far he can get with that. I wouldn't expect him to make a huge impact right off the bat.
At least not on defense. I think he'll be active because I think he's a pretty good special teams player. It's a role that, a lot of these guys coming from college were stars and they didn't really take part in special teams. He did, and he was very good at it at Kansas. So they had that on tape and they knew coming in he'd be good. And he's 235 pounds and runs a 4.4. That's a sub 4.4. That's a pretty good start. So I think he's going to play a lot on teams. I'd venture a guess to say he's going to be one of their top snap getters on special teams this year.
Snap getters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you never know how the roster is going to shake out, the game day roster, but certainly he's a guy that if he's on special teams, could impact a game that way. Sure.
Yeah. And the last draft pick is Grant Calcaterra, who missed a lot of time in training camp, makes the team. How much do you think he's going to play?
That's a tough one. I don't think he'll play a ton.
Yeah, especially not early.
Not early. But, he can catch the football. Boy, I would just be worried about – he's such a inexperienced blocker. I'd be afraid of honestly, of having him out there in any key situation.
And you figure if they go in the 12 personnel, if you had to pick between him or Jack Stoll, who is a good inline blocker, you go Stoll, right?
Yeah, and I think we've seen enough improvement from Stoll as a receiver. He's not going to be Calcaterra. He never will be as a receiver, but we did see him catch the ball. And I like that he caught a pass on the touchdown drive against the Jets with the ones. Because that's real live game action, even though it's a preseason game. I'd feel a lot better with Jack Stoll out there. I think Jack Stoll is a better receiver than Calcaterra is a blocker. I know that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And then those are all the draft picks. The undrafted guys, there's 3 on the team. Josh Jobe, Reed Blankenship, Josh Sills. What do you think their roles are going to be?
Blankenship should be, if he's up, should be a pretty good special teamer. I don't know if he'll be up.
New form. He's one of those guys who was such a star at Middle Tennessee State that he was a 5-year starter. He wasn't playing special teams.
5-year starter, yeah. He has something like 500 tackles in college.
It's under that, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it was like three something. But yeah, all those guys, we'll see. I would think Jobe. Does Jobe do much on special teams?
Yeah. He will. But probably not like a top role on teams. He's not like going to be one of the gunners, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. I wouldn't think Sills would be up. Although maybe having Dillard on IR might affect that. They still have a roster spot to add. They have game day elevations. But I would think Sills would be down.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Eagles made a few little cap maneuvers.
Yeah.
Want to break them down real quick?
Yeah, they just basically, this is what Howie does every year about this time. You got to find guys who have longer contracts so you can spread out the cap hit. But Jake Elliott and Lane Johnson both agreed to restructures that basically convert base salary into bonus money, which carves out cap room for this year. And they were about $1.2 million. So they got about $8.6 million now. I think just under $7 million got cleared out.
And that carries over too. It's not like don't think of them creating space to do something.
Right, right, absolutely. But it does give him more flexibility. And, look, the cap is going to go up so much over the next few years that when you can move cap money around like this, it's a plus. So, and Lane signed for like 20 more years, so
through 25, I believe.
do 25. So
Lane wakes up every morning and they restructure his contract.
I think it's happened like 3 times. And Jake Elliott's kind of funny for a kicker, but he's got a pretty big deal. He's one of the higher paid kickers in the league. So
earned it last year.
Yeah, he did. He had a heck of a year. We haven't really talked about him. I didn't see him miss a kick this summer. I don't want to jinx him, but
he did.
Did he miss a kick?
Yeah.
How long was it?
It was technically after camp. It was one of those practices.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But he's a really good kicker, really good outdoor kicker. So got some cap money and there's that.
Okay. Lions game.
Yeah.
There's a game this weekend.
Yeah, there is.
Thoughts on it?
I think it's a scary game for this reason. And it's not because they blew them out last year. They
44-6.
want revenge. I just think opening weekend, you always see weird things happen. The Falcons were favored over the Eagles last year in the opener. Didn't the Saints beat the Packers like 44-10 or something last year in the opening day? Weird things happen in openers. Every team is confident. Every team is thinking we're going to win the Super Bowl. Every team is healthy. And there's always like 4 or 5 games opening weekend where, like, if you look back at those scores, like around week 11, like, how did this team beat this team? So it's a dangerous week. I do think the Eagles are going to win, and I do think Detroit's a better team. They certainly got a really formidable pass rusher in the first round in Hutchinson, and I don't really know what to expect from him in his first game, but he was a really good player. And it's a dome game. It's a road opener. I think they started showing improvement at the end of last year. You could see they bought into Dan Campbell, and I had my doubts early because he was such a high school Harry type guy. But I'm sure people had the similar doubts about Nick Sirianni from the outside. But when you see a team that is, 3 and 12 going into week 16 or game 16, and they play hard and then they win a couple games late, that tells you that the players are buying in, and they can build off that and have that momentum carrying over into this year. I think they're going to be better. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I do think the Eagles get out of there with a win, but it's certainly not going to be a 38-point game.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I still I don't think the Lions are very good. I'm not buying into the Hard Knocks hype.
Do you watch that show? I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
No, it's like if you're like a roofer, are you going to go home after a long day of roofing and watch a show about roofers?
I mean, I feel like it's a little different.
How's it different?
Because
it's what we do. It's like it's our job to like cover a football team. So why do I want to watch?
But I still like football.
Well, I'll watch a game.
Okay.
But it's not a game. I don't know. I just, I don't know. Lions won 3 of their last 6 last year after starting out 0-10-1.
Yeah. The Eagles loss was a low point for them. I mean, they were 0-8 going into their bye week after that game.
Yeah.
They
were.
Tough place to be.
And they bounced back with a clutch 16-16 tie at Pittsburgh.
Yeah. That was a big tie for them.
It was.
Seriously.
Well, they beat Arizona late when Arizona was losing. I think Arizona lost their last 5
and
or
they
5
bottomed out.
6. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't think I think Detroit will be better than 3 wins, but I don't think when all said and done, I think they're going to be a 6-win team, maybe 7 wins. But just weird things happen opening day, and it always scares me being a favorite, and everything kind of points. Everyone's picking this team to do this and that. It's a dangerous game.
Yeah. What'd you make of Kelsey the other day?
I love that stuff, and
what's funny? People are like, I think part of it was calculated, but I don't think he went in there with that intention. What I think, so he was asked a pretty innocuous question about Nick Sirianni feeling more comfortable in year 2. And at first Kelsey agreed, of course, Nick's more comfortable in year 2. And then he caught himself agreeing with comfort. And I think it triggered something in him that he probably had been thinking about. And, don't be too comfortable. Expectations don't mean bleep. And then he kind of let it go, which was fun. And at that point, probably calculated.
Yeah. I'm going to miss him so much. I went back to say hi to Kelsey in the locker room. And when we were in Cleveland, he wasn't practicing. I was talking to him on the sideline before one of the practices. And we were talking about delis, like authentic Jewish delis in Cleveland. He's from Cleveland. My mom's from Cleveland, East Side. My cousin's son was his soccer coach in like 8th grade. And we couldn't remember the name of like the best deli in Cleveland. And this is why I love the locker room. I walk back and say hi to Kelsey, and he goes, Corky and Lenny's. It's like, that was the deli, Corky and Lenny's. He's like, that place is great. But yeah, no, I love Kelsey. I think everything he says is passionate and from the heart and genuine. I do think some of it's premeditated, and I think he knows exactly when to get that message across, when it has to be heard. He is so respected in that locker room. Veterans.
He had this like sly little smile at the end when he was asked, like, have you talked to your teammates about this? He said, well, not directly, but maybe they'll see a clip of this.
Right.
Like,
he knows.
Yeah, he knows.
He's so shrewd that way. And there's not a lot of guys, like the guys on the defense, respect him and listen to him and appreciate him. There's not many guys whose reach kind of goes to everyone in the locker room. I think BG's like that. But Kelsey certainly like that. And so I think it was authentic and genuine, but also just a little bit premeditated.
Yep.
But I liked it.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
In front of me, I just have a few matchups for this game I'll be watching. I think the Lions receivers are better this year. They got Chark, St. Brown's back.
Yeah.
They have Josh Reynolds now. So it's not like the best trio, but better than it was. It'll give the Eagles a little bit of a test. Penei Sewell, the real deal. They got him in the first round last year, and he was excellent early in his career. And him against Hassan Reddick should be a good matchup. We saw Reddick struggle with Lane Johnson all summer. I think he'll have a lot of success this year, but tough first matchup.
Yeah.
TJ Hawkinson against CJ Gardner-Johnson. This is one of the reasons you got Gardner-Johnson is to deal with bigger bodies in the middle of the field, and Hawkinson's pretty good.
He is, and it's a lot to ask of a guy who just got here 9 days ago or something like that.
Although in a way, if you ask him to man up a player, makes it a little easier,
I guess. But we'll see. It's an interesting matchup. It's a key matchup. Hawkinson had 10 for 89 in that game last year. A lot of it was garbage time, but he's a good player. How big is he? What is he?
He's a big dude.
6. Why don't they list his 6'5", 250? Yeah, big dude. First round pick. 8th pick overall.
Yeah,
out of Iowa, right? So that's really a big matchup. Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson against the Eagles tackles. I went back and watched them in the preseason. They lined him up on both sides. We'll see if that continues during the year, but chance we could see him. I mean, either way, you feel good about the Eagles in those matchups, but I think Hutchinson has a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean, this O-line, you think about last year, as good as the O-line was, Landon didn't start playing well till halfway through the season. Sam Malo was hurt week 2. They're healthy and they are just loaded right now. And you got to love any matchup with these guys.
And the last one is just Miles against that Lions defense. Remember, Detroit last year was where they figured out that, hey, we're a running team, almost out of necessity. So that's one of the biggest questions about this team is what that ratio is going to look like.
Yeah, Miles against his mentor, Deuce.
Be great to see Deuce.
Yeah.
It was fun seeing him out there last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I miss Deuce. I wonder how he would have done if he was head coach.
Never know.
We'll never know. But certainly can't argue with the selection they made.
Yeah, seems to be working out pretty well. You got anything else?
Going well so far. No, I'm stoked. I am stoked. Opening day, 1:00. And, can't wait.
Yeah, we'll have a podcast, of course, after the game, breaking it down one way or the other. Hopefully we don't need a positivity corner in that one.
There's always got to be a Dave's positivity corner.
Well,
no matter.
Hopefully it's a big corner in week 1 and we can see the team get off to a good start and people be into it. We need people into it. That helps. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please rate
They're always into it.
and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe there as well. That's all we've got for you this week. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. For Rube, I'm Dave. We'll talk to you soon.